Hello and welcome to another video. Now, shortly after I was in college, I was taught how to make a dish called Tortilla Español by a friend of mine from Sevilla, Spain. He was over studying English, and we got to talking, and so got an interest in Spanish food. This is probably the most interesting of the dishes that he and I ever cooked together. Now, tortilla itself is a mixture of eggs, potatoes, sometimes onions, but I've always been taught to leave them out, a little bit of salt, and olive oil. And a really good tortilla has a really mouth-watering olive oil flavor. So we're going to go ahead and work on this today. It's a simple cuisine, a simple dish, but it's also a fairly exacting one. So pay attention. We'll have a lot of discussions about how to make this come out right. So here we have our ingredients. Potatoes are what we're going to start with. We will chip them and fry them first in oil. Then we'll mix them with eggs, a little bit of salt, and fry the whole thing slowly in olive oil. This is the same olive oil that I used earlier for the bagna cauda. It should work really well. Couple points: do not skimp on the olive oil, and do not skimp on the quality of the olive oil. Use good quality olive oil in this dish because that's one of the main points of this dish. So we'll get started. I'm going to peel and chip these potatoes, and I will put them in a bowl of cold water. Once that's all done, I'll be back and we'll talk about the frying process. So here I've taken most of those potatoes, I've chipped them up, cut them into just kind of pieces, irregular pieces about this big, and I've put them in cold water. And the reason to put them in cold water is so that the starch on the outside goes away, and when we fry them, they'll fry well. So we're going to go ahead and get on the frying in just 1 second, but I wanted to show this to you, and then we'll go from there. So potatoes really do well when they're double cooked, especially when we're talking about frying. So I've put this with a standard vegetable oil. I've turned the heat on about an 8. They're about 2 fingers of oil, so about that much oil on the bottom. And then we'll go ahead and fry the the pieces of potatoes in this oil as it gets hot. Then we'll go from there. So once this is hot, I will throw in some of the potatoes. I will cook them in batches, and once they're all cooked, then we will add the eggs and everything else. So normally what I do is the oil is heating up as I put just 1 piece of potatoes in. So I wait until it's boiling nicely like it is now. And then I'm going to add a whole handful of the potatoes. And we'll let these fry until they're fully done and starting to brown a little bit, and then we'll spoon them into this bowl and go from there. So these are now cooked through, so I'm going to scoop them out with this. A slotted spoon would also work, but keep in mind the oil is pretty hot, so you don't want to use a plastic one. And I'm just going to go ahead and put the next handful or so in, and we'll cook these about as quickly as we can. Then we will go ahead and prepare the eggs. Let's get that little piece out of here so it doesn't burn. It is important to get as much as you can out of it each time, so that you don't have burning pieces that are there and eventually make the whole dish pretty bitter. So I think this time I'm going to try 2 handfuls. and we'll cook these. Well, I'm going to rotate through all of the potatoes now, and when I come back, all the potatoes will have been cooked. So here we have our 6 eggs. Now, some people like to separate the the egg whites and beat them so that they so that there's more air in it, and that works very nicely too. That kind of requires an egg beater. If you want to do that by hand, it's going to take a long time, a lot longer than I want to spend on it tonight. So I'm going to do a very simple one without without any of that fanciness. So I've beat these eggs here. I'm going to add a bit of salt. Stir that in one more time. And then I'm going to stir in the fried potatoes. So I'm now stirring in the potatoes, and you're going to see it's mostly potatoes and some egg. A little more here I can add. Now I'm going to take my skillet and I'm going to heat it up over maybe medium-low. And I'm going to be very generous with the olive oil here. Now I have here an Italian olive oil. It would probably be better with the Spanish one. And once this olive oil is hot, and it's going to definitely be a nice extra virgin olive oil, as this is. And you want a really nice, highly flavored one. And basically, once this starts to be hot, I will pour in the eggs and potatoes, and we will start to cook it. So the olive oil is starting to get nice and reasonably hot, but not super hot. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in, and we will fry it. Seems like maybe it wasn't quite hot enough, but it'll be fine. And we're going to very slowly cook this for maybe another, basically until it's most of the way cooked through. Then we'll flip it over. We'll cook it again on the other side. And then we'll take it out. So even though this is on medium-low heat, you can see it's still boiling in the olive oil, and it's actually solid up through the top. So I'm not even going to flip this over. I'm just going to pour. I'm just going to remove it from the pan, and we'll go from there. So we're just about done here. I'll be right back. So here we have our tortilla de patatas. Now, I'm going to cut a piece of it off. I'll show you the inside. If I had beat the egg whites and then folded the rest in, it would be a little bit different. Spaniards top it with ketchup. That's their deal. I kind of prefer it without, but both ways work. So that's something to try. Now, one very key point. If you cook this on a low heat, you may still get some of this crust. That's fine. The big problem with cooking it on a higher heat is you'll dissipate a lot of the olive oil flavor. So the fact that this was cooked on a low heat should mean that this has a nice olive oil flavor. So there we are. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'll go ahead and cut a piece off for the taste test, and I'll put ketchup on part and leave the rest bare. So here's a piece. If I pick it up and I show you the inside, you'll see that it's mostly potato with some eggs in between. Now, if I had beat the egg whites first, you would see it would be just a bit thicker and there would be more air in the middle. It would also take a much longer time to cook. So that's how this is. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just put a bit of ketchup on this part over here. Or maybe I'll just put ketchup on this whole piece, but I'll leave a section off so I can taste in both cases on the taste test. And so here it is with the ketchup. I'll go ahead and we'll go ahead and do the taste test next. And now for the taste test. So with the ketchup, this kind of reminds me of like fries and ketchup. That's kind of why I prefer it straight. So now I'll try it straight. This is what I was shooting for. You can taste the olive oil very distinctly along with the eggs and the potatoes. It's delicious. You gotta try this. I hope you enjoy this as much as I do. Bon appetit.